If you have your club card, please $4.99. If you have your club card, please scan it now. $4.99.
Really? That's so expensive.
Your card.
As far as I know, I didn't encounter any jokes, which is good. It didn't sound to me like anybody threatened my life. I didn't see any of the people that I know for certain that there's an issue with. Of course, the folks who hit me the most definitely go to friends for assistance. You get to see how a lot of people come up to my vehicle. Some of them offer me drugs. A lot of them are looking for drugs. They all end up leaving without drugs and without me taking any of theirs. There's a reason for that. Just because people want to be mean and want to be cruel and want to assume doesn't mean that they're right. And just because it's popular doesn't make it okay. Whatever it is with the ambulance. Oh, well, I guess there's a Tillamook fire truck. That's cool though, isn't it? Who doesn't love a fire truck? Thank you! Absolutely. Hell yeah. Who gets a thumbs up for those guys? And here's another one. Yeah, I waved at him. Heck yeah. You know, when a cop does the right thing, I want to applaud them too. It just seems to me that whether or not they do the right thing, or what they even consider the right thing, is dependent on most of the time gender and money. Somebody with Colorado plates just drove by. It's the red plates. I believe that means he was a fireman, but I'm not. Don't quote me on that because I don't know exactly for sure. I was told that if it's a blue one, then it's an off-duty police officer, and if it's a red one, it's an off-duty fire department. And the reason that they do that is because even if they're not in uniform, they're still required to do something in case of an emergency, and so they're actually easier to identify because of their plates. Well, that's at least the story I was told, but I don't know how true it is. If it is true, then that guy back there with the Colorado plates was a fireman. If any of y'all want to look that up and let me know, that'd be appreciated. A lot of people keep telling me, hey, what you should do, what you should do, what you should do. You know, just what I should do. The things that you say that I should do, those are the things I started with, and they didn't work. That's the point. The ideas that you have, I started off with those, but also I wasn't able to follow the instructions of the lawyers because I was instructed to record it, which I didn't have the ability to do in the beginning. And it was explained to me that because I'm called mentally ill, they've got 1,000,001 ways of blowing me off. So instead of letting them blow me off, which is basically what it is when you go in alone, I needed a friend or family member to go in with me who had known me for a while, who understood my diagnosis and my quirks. The problem is that I'd been through hell and desensitized like a motherfucker. Well, at least taught like nearly all men in the United States. Don't show emotions or you're a sissy. Where I grew up, showing any sort of emotion other than aggression would probably get you hurt. Unless you made a friend. When you make a friend in the system, sometimes they'll do some crazy shit for you. There's a few people that I was locked up with that when kids really wanted to beat me up, they'd do what's called running scrimmage on the staff. That's where one of the big kids, in size, not necessarily age, goes and starts a fight with the staff, basically, to keep them busy. And while they're busy, that's when the other kids corner the kid they don't like in the corner and beat the shit out of him. But there's also, you know, that's kind of the first week routine for a white boy who goes into the system. You're going to be that kid backed into a corner beaten up by a bunch of black kids. Sorry. If you're bigger, or if you're lucky enough to be big and carry yourself well, who am I kidding? You'll probably still get your ass whooped. But you learn that because you can take an ass whooping without being a racist fuckhead, that some of them will eventually get to like you, and eventually you get to have your run of the facility. That doesn't mean you run the facility. What it means is that you can hang out with the Hispanics, you can hang out with the Asians, you can hang out with the blacks, you can hang out with the whites, you can hang out with who you want to, and you're respected enough from taking your ass whoopings that If there's a new white kid comes in and you want them to have some leniency on them, they might. Maybe not on the first day. On the first day, everybody gonna punk him anyway, and that's why you gotta speak up. They let him know where the pecking order is from the start. That way he knows what the pecking order is and when to be submissive. And if he's not smart enough to figure that out, he's gonna get hurt a lot. And obviously, I'm talking about experience. Whereas some of you are gonna try to pretend that everything that I say is a threat. Anyway, nobody assaulted me today. Anyway, nobody assaulted my vehicle. One thing that I've noticed is that hatred and sexism towards men are okay. Hatred towards white people in general is somehow magically okay. Most of our cops are white, and they're most likely to listen to white women. What does that tell you about bias? What does that tell you about why women feel so free with being sexist, being hateful, especially towards other victims of domestic assault, towards male victims of domestic assault? If a male speaks up about the abuse that he's endured, he is more likely to get bombarded and chastised for speaking up than anything else. Meanwhile, many of the women who offer to help a man, they will not help him the way that they would help a woman. They tell him he's got to do it himself. When he's disabled and homeless, he doesn't have that opportunity. I have to record every interaction. I also have to show the recordings of those interactions. And when I set up a time and place to do it where I can hopefully do it safely, it's always the setup. Like when Jen Beebe was supposed to be there so that she could help me to safely make a report. But we had to meet at the Dual County Sheriff's Department because that was the only local safe place we could go to. And guess who got to be there? And guess who made the call? Dual County Sheriff's Department called and told Jen Beebe that I was reaching for their firearm and attempting to suicide by cop. And so she had me locked up based on what they said on suicidal ideations. She was supposed to be there to help me. But my predators got to speak, and as a result, I wasn't heard. The Dual County Sheriff's Department got to speak to her before I did. Scott DaCosta and his deputies got to taint the situation from the very start. Just like they did with Nebraska State Patrol, with Garden County Sheriff's Department, with Cheyenne County Sheriff's Department, with the prison in Lincoln, with several hospitals. And they kept sending me places that are out of jurisdiction. And then when you're out of jurisdiction, you can't turn them in. They're lucky enough to have a jail that's out of jurisdiction because they can use any jail around them. County Safekeep Program. All right, I'm done using this thing. I got a dirty ass hoodie here, and it keeps this artificial shit from making me itch. It gets even more bad with that. Oh, fuck it. I don't care. I'll just scratch myself, no problem. Anyway, instead of trying to get to know me, instead of talking to my friends and family, the police just wanted to assume Natalie's predators wanted a way back into her life, and her pretending like I would hurt her to make her family happy gave them an excuse. They made my life hell and then pretended like it didn't happen. Pretended like I was just some nut job stalking her. Instead of Tim Beeson coming forward and telling Natalie that he was stalking me and threatening to kill my friends and family. Actually threatening to kill my friends and family. Accusing me of shit that never happened. Meanwhile, who was on drugs, Natalie or me? Obviously, with all the whiz quizzes showing that I was not on drugs, that I actually took, it was pretty important for them to keep that out of court, for them to sell their own narrative, for them not to allow actual evidence in court. It was important for those officers that I was trying to turn in to be assigned their own cases. That's right, when I had to turn in officers that broke the law knowingly, willingly, and intentionally, those literal officers by name got to be the ones to investigate. Like Amanda Jonas, Sergeant Jones. Amanda Jonas was of Longmont, Colorado. She was assigned to her own case where she intentionally lied to a hospital that I was in for less than 24 hours. Told them that I was schizophrenic because they listened to the Bollinger family, who had been pulling this shit for over a year. They kept on pulling this shit. By the time I did anything to actually threaten anyone back, it'd been over a year and a half since all this shit started. Now, the Bollingers, despite the fact that I have so much evidence, and so many of you who've seen the evidence, that they were harassing me, that they were threatening me, that they were messing with me the whole time, the cops won't look at it. Even if I call them immediately, you get to see on multiple occasions when they showed up, it was to harass me. Not to look at evidence, but to assume. To pass judgment and refuse to investigate. So you're goddamn right I speak up. While my predators try to destroy evidence. Y'all haven't found a way to shut me up yet, have you? Over 30 false charges pressed against me in Dual County, Nebraska. 11 separate occasions just on that. Every time they had to drop the charges, that is quite significant. Over 20 deputies who took part in it were released from Dual County Sheriff's Department service and allowed to move elsewhere. Deputy Jared Hahn got to be the one who had investigated Jared Hahn. Matter of fact, Jared Hahn and Cody Selhorst, both Dual County deputies, that I had to turn in when Jen Beebe showed up. That was just before the 4th of July of 2018, after Natalie was dead, after I'd been repeatedly cut off from speaking, from showing the truth, from showing evidence. The only actual news media that I spoke with turned out not to be news media. It was web sleuth tabloids. I needed someone to help protect me because I am a vulnerable adult. You notice that I was in those vulnerable situations because I was forced into them. Because of slander and because of assumptions. You just assume that a homeless man must be the predator. You show your bias and you show your hatred. We got the sheriff of Spokane, Washington, spouting stuff that the Nazis spouted out over 75 years ago. And look what it led to. I might vomit. Please help me turn it in. Please. The longer it takes, the more of it's lost, stolen, or destroyed. The more I have to depend on people in desperate situations because